the power of artificial intelligence. Let us have a look at the purpose of the discussion through an audio visual.
In today's rapidly evolving world, universities are at the forefront of AI education, equipping students with the knowledge and skills to create and shape AI-driven technologies. Through specialized courses, hands-on projects, and collaboration, universities teach students the principles of AI development. Faculty members, leading experts in the field, guide students in building AI technology, covering areas such as machine learning, data analysis, and algorithm design. Ethical considerations are also emphasized, addressing societal implications and responsible AI practices. By fostering innovation and interdisciplinary collaboration, universities prepare graduates to drive AI innovation across industries. Join us in exploring how universities harness the power of artificial intelligence, teaching and building AI technology. Welcome to this session on Harnessing the Power of Artificial Intelligence, how universities teach and build AI technology.
I'd now like to invite Mr. Jyoti Kamal, Managing Editor, News18 Punjab, Haryana, to please escort the panelists on the stage. Dr. Lalit Awasthi, Director, NIT, Uttarakhand. Dr. Awasthi is presently Professor and Director at NIT Technology, NIT Uttarakhand since 9 February 2022. He comes from the field of computer science and engineering. He is the main architect of the CSE department, NIT Hamirpur. Dr. Padma Kumar Nair, Director, Harper Institute of Engineering and Technology. Dr. Nair is Director and Dean of LM Harper School of Management. His current interests are in the areas of leadership for sustainability and entrepreneurship, with a focus on using evolutionary psychology principles to improve human condition and organizational effectiveness. Professor Rajiv Ahuja, Director, IIT Ropar. Professor Ahuja, the Director of IIT Ropar, is a distinguished teacher. He comes from the field of computational materials. He is an elected fellow of the Royal Society of Chemistry. Over to you, Jyoti Kamal.
Thank you, Archie. Thank you so much. Thank you, Professor Batish, for kind of getting us going. I was just listening to the voiceover that you were hearing just before this. So it was like if earlier I used to be doing those voiceovers, and it's already an AI that's doing them. If I was here, I would be pretty worried that eventually things are kind of changing. One can see that things are changing. When we speak normally, we speak at about 40 bits per second. AIs can already transmit, like machine transmission can already touch about, say, something like 2 million gigabits per second as it transfers information. So if you're talking about the kind of transmission capability that exists with machines and with AIs kind of processing that, isn't it already game over for us? Like if we really look at the kind of capabilities that exist in terms of being able to process information, the kind of transmission rates that are now becoming possible, the kind of quantum computing technology that is becoming feasible, superconductivity to provide the resources and the energy to make all of this possible. Are you seeing this as a bubble, or are you seeing that there is something tangible happening with AI? Because these days, it seems to have now become the buzzword. Everybody's talking AI, ChatGPT, GPT, and everything. So is it more of a bubble? And what really changed? Like this question that everyone asks, it's not as if AIs are something new. It's not as if AIs did not exist earlier. Something happened in the last 6 months. And like Sam Altman, the kind of CEO of OpenAI, he says that the combined impact of this AI revolution will be greater than the industrial, the IT, the agricultural revolution combined. So is this all like, is it all just a hype? Is it reality? You have been in the thick of it, all of you, because you have really seen it from up close. So when you look at it, what is it that you're sensing? If we start with you, Professor Ahuja, what do you think, what's happening with AI? Is it a bubble? Is it reality? Is it something to fear? Is it something to kind of look forward to? How do you see this?
So thank you for asking me this question. I will not say it's not a bubble, and this is going to lead the world for next 50 years. I can give you one example, actually. When we started the BTech program in AI and data engineering from this semester, some faculty told me, sir, maybe it's a bubble. We should not start this BTech program. I said, no. I will start it, and I know that this is the future. And just declaring this in the Senate, after 2 days, I got a phone or an email contact from one of the biggest foundation in US. And he said that, what you think about AI? We want to set up a school of AI and data engineering at IIT Ropar. I say it's wonderful because then he asked me, how many students you are going to start with the BTech? Because IITs are known for their BTech program. So he said that if you have a BTech program, then we will fund it. Otherwise, we will not fund it. So I say, I have a BTech program. I just, 2 weeks back, we have approved that. He asked me how many seats. I say, I just start with a 25 seat. And he asked me, why you don't want to start with 50 or 100 seats? I say, because of the infrastructure. And he said, who cares about infrastructure? We will provide you the infrastructure. So they also believe, because when this foundation, they say that they have the vision where world will be in next 50 years. So they are investing only on those technologies, and AI is one of them. So AI is not a bubble, it's a future, and it will touch all of us. And maybe even right now, AI is here. So you cannot escape now AI. Some people say it's a good AI, bad AI, but there's nothing like that. AI is there, and it's going to rule the world for next 40 to 50 years.
There's this movie that's going to come out, which is Oppenheimer. So he was like the father of the atomic bomb. It was a bomb. He was a scientist. He was given a task that you have to kind of develop a nuclear weapon. The weapon was developed. When it got unleashed, so he quoted from the Bhagavad Gita later on, because he was like terrified when he saw the power of the atomic explosion, and said that I have become the destroyer of worlds. So as engineers, as professors, as scientists, which you all are, your job is to kind of obviously teach, it is to kind of research, it is to analyze, it is to introspect, it is to think, it is to transfer. And knowledge is knowledge. Like you said, there is nothing called good AI, there's nothing called bad AI, it's AI. Yeah. Now, it is going to be amenable to use both ways. There is a professor at MIT, Max Tegmark, so he's said that there is this movie which talks about Don't Look Up, that there is an asteroid heading towards the planet, people are going on discussing. There is no action that's being kind of taken in a concrete manner. It's an extinction level event which could happen, but that action is not being taken in time to kind of do anything about it. Now, AI is something like that, because Max Tegmark is somebody who has been heavily invested in it. He says that this is also something like Don't Look Up, that we are not understanding what's coming at us. But maybe these are doomsday scenarios. Is this real? Is it like the same question that I was asking him? What is your assessment, Professor Nair? Because you have seen a lot of the world. You have kind of worked in the Netherlands. You have kind of worked in Tokyo. You have worked with different industries, from petroleum to consulting. You're in education now. So you have seen it all, and you are seeing it coming. What is your assessment?
You see, first of all, I want to go back to that question of, is it a bubble? It's definitely not a bubble. But a quick look at what happened in the last 500 years. Two major things have happened. One, world population has changed from about 500 million to almost 8 billion. Life expectancy have changed from about 35, 40 to almost 75, 80. But what, other than that, from an industrial, scientific, technological advancement point of view, we started with the Industrial Revolution. Industrial Revolution replaced most jobs needing power and speed. First one, steam power. Second one is electricity. Third one is automation. So electricity, automation combined replaced most jobs needing precision and repetition. So now we could produce millions of iPhones, precision, repetition. Fourth one is, I call, AI, big data, Internet of Things. That revolution is slowly replacing most jobs needing abstracting simple rules from large sets of data. So we are sitting and pondering what would happen to all those jobs today available with AI. So before answering that question, if you look at the types of AI, from a very general point of view, I'm not an expert, but for a non-expert's point of view, I can think of narrow AI. That means a specific area, artificial intelligence expertise in a specific area. Then you can talk about artificial generalized intelligence. ChatGPT is more like artificial generalized intelligence. It's also, even though it's a large language model, but it incorporates everything from our day-to-day messaging and chatting and talking. So it's kind of artificial generalized intelligence. Then the evolution could be artificial superintelligence. In certain areas, AI might at least show much more nuances and speed than human beings. And finally, at least I would argue that most interesting AI is artificial emotional intelligence. So look at, say, if I'm teaching a class of 200 students, if I have the right computer vision and understand facial expressions. Interestingly, we all make about 7,000 unique facial expressions every day. We could, on an average, make about 10,000 unique expressions. So this can actually dictate what is going on. And we also know that one of the major challenges we face with the young people is, if you are very young, it is about autism, lack of focus. Teenagers, probably depression and other anxiety and other related ones. I'm 61 years old, and data shows that 65 plus, at least 25% of the old people are in some way depressed. This artificial emotional intelligence can really help. One of the major schools in China used several devices to see student attention, whether they're tired, are they focusing, looking at the phone, and collecting so much data using AI and training those models. So AI is going to stay, but then the question is AI related to ethics of AI. I would say that we need to think about three things when we think about AI. One is, it is going to be an enabler. It is going to help us in this journey of achieving excellence. What is the journey of achieving excellence? Is wanting to do it better than before. As Professor was telling, started AI, big data. It's all about wanting to do it better than before. Better than before for whom? Better than before for our students and our society and for our nation and the world at large. Excellence, getting into this journey of doing better. See, with ChatGPT, I can write something better than using Grammarly, for example. Then this idea of ethics. So that's a lot more nuanced discussion. And finally, I would say that we all need to think about artificial empathetic intelligence. The empathy, those three E's are very important. Excellence and empathy and ethics. Thank you.
Very interesting. In fact, you have also been working on leadership. I'll come back to that later in this discussion. But already the kind of language that we were discussing just now seems to be kind of difficult to comprehend unless one is keeping pace with what's going on. For example, this whole thing about AI and ChatGPT. I mean, when you really kind of analyze the words GPT itself, it's a generative, pre-trained transformer. And when you say a large language model, basically what the software has done is it has scanned a huge database of human language with human feedback given in the initial stages, that when this is said, this is what it means. When this is like this is what it is. So it is like pre-trained, and then it's a transformer. Transformer is 2,000 lines of code for it to kind of generate its own output from it. So, and already there are almost trillions of parameters that GPT is calculating. So the rate at which it is kind of being able to calculate, the rate at which it is growing, it's also being referred to almost as an alien intelligence. Because for the first time, why so much talk is happening around it? Humans are for the first time realizing that there could be somebody smarter than them. Because till now we were the dominant kind of species on the planet. So it was always felt that we are the #1 species. Everybody else is intellectually, intelligence-wise, lesser than us. Now here comes an intelligence form which created by us, but almost becoming alien in its capabilities, what it can do. And that's why this whole kind of discussion, this whole fear around it. You were just talking about facial expressions at 7,000 parameters. We have a distinguished guest, the SSP of Chandigarh also here. Later on, it's going to be General Huda also, who was kind of instrumental in the surgical strike. So the army, the police, they've also started using facial recognition software, which is also analyzing human behavior. Somebody sweating, fidgeting, the software will analyze it faster than a human will to kind of predict that something could go wrong here. So we live in challenging times. Professor Awasthi, you have done your PhD from IIT Roorkee, you have been associated with the NITs. NITs are going to play a fundamental role in creating the next generation of engineering leaders. So when you see these kind of technological changes happening, what is your kind of general feeling? Is it of excitement? Is it of enthusiasm? It is of worry? Is it apprehension? What is the dominant feeling?
Well, I'll also start with this, that the AI, it's a revolution now. And each and every area is going to be predominantly influenced by artificial intelligence. Definitely, where the other speaker has left, there are a lot many parameters which are needed. So a lot many data. On the other side, we are having the learning algorithms which are working on at the back end. As you have asked earlier, whether it's going to be plus or minus, so technologically, it is living on this kind of learning which data we provide. So there is definitely, it's a double-edged sword. So it can be used for plus as well as for minus also. So the way using this artificial intelligence, we are on one side, let us say cyber security. We are using in cyber security. On one side, it is giving us capability to assess what is going on, and it can give us some insights into what can be the future kind of attacks. Similarly, the attackers can also use it, and they can also advance their techniques of using it against any kind of protection which we are providing. So it's a both, but definitely the main use of this has been into use of how to make life good for people. It can definitely be used for sentiment analysis. It can also be used to deduce the minds, mostly in education system. If there are 60 or 120 students or 100 students, it's each and every learner is a different learner. So how to capture the learner? This is the technology which has a lot of promise for all such kind of learners, and you'll be able to see that it has an impact that it can monitor in real time. Real time is I'm teaching my students, and in the real time I can get feedback that these are the students who are following me, these are the students which are out of my class, and these are the students where attention is not in the class. So this kind of feedback we used to have in back where when we were teaching that, okay, after teaching a course, you take the feedback of the student. That may not be that helpful. Maybe for successive session it is good. But with the AI and enabled technologies, we are getting feedback in real time. And these things, the other aspect which you have just told, that for police and all, so you see in a city, typical maybe Chandigarh, there can be thousands of CCTV cameras, and looking at all those cameras may not be very good for any kind of person sitting on the terminal. Now this AI is helping us. Now the new research is that which are the areas where there is a activity, and those focused areas will be highlighted. So see, it's a lot of promise, and it will be able to deliver also, and I think it will make life better.
Correct. Like you were talking about surveillance, so Indian Army is already experimenting with something called a silent sentry. So silent sentry is like a robot which is mounted on a rail. So on the border areas, between 2 points, there will be a rail on which this silent sentry is mounted, and it goes back and forth on it, scanning the area and using artificial intelligence to figure out if there is any intrusion attempt happening. And it does this incessantly, non-stop. You can have human fatigue, but you will not have machine fatigue because the machine is continuously moving. Professor Nair was talking about artificial narrow intelligence and also artificial general intelligence. Artificial narrow intelligence would be if the room is hot, switch on the AC. If the lights are too bright, dim them. So this would be artificial narrow intelligence. AGI is what humans have, where we can be actually sitting and thinking what's going on, why is this talk happening? So that is AGI. But there is this whole controversy that is ChatGPT and is this transformer actually an AGI, or is it a narrow artificial intelligence which is just a predictor? So that confusion is already there. Some people are saying that it has already become self-aware, but is it self-aware or not? But if we come back to our immediate kind of issues, there is this constant worry that the distance between what is available and what we know is ever increasing, ever kind of, the gap is widening. So as educational leaders, do you see a challenge there for the rest of the people, your engineers? You would know how to work. You understand this technology much more than the common person understands. The common person is going to be impacted by these technologies first and foremost, because they would probably not understand how to react. So is there some sort of a moral imperative also now? What can we do to make sure that a substantial portion of people are able to fruitfully utilize AI, are not completely bogged down by it, the distance doesn't become so much that they can never catch up? So is this a challenge for now? So Professor Ahuja, if you could kind of tell us a bit about that.
So I will say that when we talk about AI, we should talk about responsible AI. And when we talk about responsible AI, there are the four main ingredients of the responsible AI. The one is we call FATE: fairness, accountability, transparency, and ethic. So when we train those data sets, because in AI, basically, you have a model and you train with a data set. So how good your training set or how good is your model, that depends, and that gives you the result based on that one. So we should not be biased with the data. So that's why I say it should be the fairness and the transparency we have to. And we should also think about the human values. So we should be ethically also correct when we are training those data sets. So we have to produce a data set which is fair and which is accountable. It's not like that I make and the data set with the biased data set and some outcome I want, I make with that kind of data set. So you will see that that will bring out in the world this kind of data set and this kind of results, and a lot of company will use it and they will use it in a different way. So that will create unharmony also in the society. So we have to be very responsible when we talk about AI. So AI, as you mentioned, that this going to touch, as I told you, in each department. So when you get so many pictures of the face expression, you cannot do by hand or something. So we have to again train a model who can look in all those face recognition and to produce a model which is quite accurate and what we are predicting is right, because it will affect the whole mankind. So we have to be very responsible when we be talking about the AI, and especially I will talk about responsible AI. So that is the future. If we use the AI in that way, and nowadays people are talking about a lot about ChatGPT, and of course it's there. It's also creating a lot of challenges as if for educational point of view, educational sector point of view, that our teacher has to be trained much better now. So we have to be one step ahead of this ChatGPT, what they are going to, because we have to bring our student also in the classes. So now what's happening, so they are not coming in the classes. They can get a good solution by ChatGPT, why they should come. So it's not like that whatever ChatGPT produces is correct, but it gives you like some kind of a rough guess you can start with. So future we have to think about, especially as a teacher, we have to train ourselves, and we should be one step ahead of our students. And we have to one step ahead of our ChatGPT and all those artificial intelligence combined with the machine learning. So this is going to dominate in the future. And you, as a parents, you will see that when your kids will ask you more difficult question, not that simple question which were previous speaker was saying 73 question. Now this will be not those 73 question for sure. The future will be very different, and it will be tough for parents also as well as the teachers also.
Yes, thank you, Professor Ahuja. You were just saying that you have to be one step ahead of ChatGPT. So when Sam Altman was recently in India, so he was asked this question that you have already developed this model, OpenAI has already developed this model. What can India do? How can we kind of now kind of catch up or whatever? So to which he said, it's hopeless. I mean, don't even try. But basically, that's what he meant. Don't even try. I mean, you can't do it. Basically, he meant that's the impression that he gave, to which a lot of Indian CEOs later on reacted on Twitter and everywhere, that challenge on, challenge accepted, now we'll show you what we can do. But the point is that he seems to be very confident of his gap that has already been put in terms of that technology. Professor Batish was just now talking about this whole kind of hierarchy of things that needs to be done for you to be able to understand certain things. You need to know basic maths for you to be able to kind of go to the next level, for you to then be able to kind of code, program, then to be able to think strategically, then build things up. There has always been this question that certain types of knowledge are easily replicable by machines. For example, if you tell a child to remember the capitals of all the countries in the world, that child is trained again and again and eventually is able to recite. It will appear like as if that child is a genius. But that is something which can be easily done by a machine. Like, say, Shakuntala Devi could do massive calculations, but a simple calculator can do those calculations. So sometimes we get confused about what is genius, what is actual kind of knowledge, what is learning. So, but Professor Nair, you have worked in the area of leadership. It is often said that these technologies, AI will be able to do a lot of things which are done repetitively, which are formulaic, which have steps which kind of lead to certain answers, which is basically the world of engineering and science and technology. It's very sequential. Arts is actually more kind of overlapping, all-encompassing. Is it even possible, I mean, if we turn the argument around, that one will suddenly see the engineering fields go down and the arts fields rise because probably AIs will not be able to handle those areas as well as it can handle sequential kind of areas in science and technology? Would you see this kind of a change happen? And also that question I wanted to ask you about leadership. How do you see AIs leading or humans leading or following? What will happen in this?
You know, a lot of interesting points have been discussed here, and I want to touch upon at least 3 of them. First of all, I want to relate the question we asked to the CEO of OpenAI, and can India catch up? See, if we all look at and think about we all need to achieve the same goal, only then we need to worry about catching up, because you are running for the same thing. I would argue that India and Indian culture has something distinct to offer when we think about AI in the long term. So Professor was mentioning about responsible AI. Responsible AI is even more challenging than AI models itself. The reason is, think about, I think this is valid in India, but less in India, but more in the West. So today in the United States, you ask a question to someone, you either get a conservative Trump kind of an answer or a woke kind of an answer. So these are the mental schemas, these are the worldviews and filters you use. Imagine all those text you use to train ChatGPT. You are going to get every ethical, moral question, you are going to get a woke type of answer. But imagine you purposefully avoided training that large language model and avoided all those liberal, new philosophical or that new age philosophizing. You remove that and you give more conservative, traditional kind of text for training it. It will give different kind of answer. Now the question is, what is responsible? Is it filtering your thought through all those liberal worldview, or filtering your answers through to the conservative worldview? That's where India can come in, and no culture can really, maybe China or some of the Eastern cultures. So what is so special about our culture? Our culture, we are so much at ease with fussy, multiple answers to questions. See, Americans typically, not all, but generally as a culture, they always need black and white answers. There's also a reason why that black and white answer comes, or it's predominant in the US. So look at US history. It's about 500 years old. Europeans left Europe and came to US. So when did Europeans leave the continental Europe? That was the time philosophers like René Descartes and others were telling, we need to deal with these religious dogmas. We need to solve social issues through scientific means. All right? That was the time the first wave of Europeans left continental Europe and went to the US. So what is scientific way of approaching a problem. So the traditional view of science was either you have it right or wrong, because science is not fussy. At least at the understanding of that. So that was the reason why Americans are still in that, when Bush was talking about old Europe and new Europe, actually old Europe is America and new Europe is Europe, because they kept that snapshot of that view of 500 years, that the time of René Descartes and others. So that's why also this ideological polarization. When this kind of ideological polarization is there, training a large language model to be responsible becomes extremely hard, cognitively challenging, more challenging than building those models itself. That's where an Indian culture, where you don't see the world as black and white, you have several shades of right and wrong. That's where we go in. No culture can compete with us. That would be our contribution to AI, responsible AI in the long term.
Great. Yeah. So, in fact, like they say that this is the last window that we have, because we are like parents to a child right now. AI is still a child, but it's growing rapidly. So this is our last opportunity to be good parents, teach the right ethics and morals to AI, because it will only be as good or as bad as the inputs that you give it. So perhaps this is the last window that we have. But Professor Awasthi, coming to you, my last question to you would be, technology is changing a lot of things, including the way education happens, right from the time of admissions, right from the way tests are conducted, right from the kind of answers that students will give, right to designing syllabi, understanding what to kind of work on, what not to work on. Are you already seeing its impact in your institutes? Are you already kind of trying to keep pace with what AI is doing? Because AI is moving at such blistering pace that we have to rapidly keep pace with it.
Definitely. All the education institutions in the country, in the world, is having impact of AI. And many, you can find even the students are opting for courses related to AI and machine learning and things like that. Moreover, you can see that the previous question that you're asking, whether engineering versus arts and other, I think with this new education policy coming, National Education Policy 2020 coming in India, it is going to merge. A person with arts background can also learn AI, computer science, and similarly the other side. So engineering, and I see that there's going to be multidisciplinary education system in India, and the artificial intelligence, it is definitely as a subject, it is going to be more sought kind of thing. As you see, computer science, it is impacting other engineering disciplines, and it is happening across all institutions of national importance and other institutions also. You can see the overall data which we are getting, that as against a particular discipline I will not name, you will find many universities having computer science as maybe 5,000 students. So this is a global impact, and in India it is more so. You can find, and many of the universities and national institutes of importance like IITs, NITs, almost everyone is offering now courses in artificial intelligence, machine learning, data science, IoT. All these technologies are there. So I think it is the future, and we are going in the right direction. Plus, definitely the ethics, transparency, all those things need to be embedded with this AI, use of AI and teaching of AI.
Thank you so much. In fact, there were many more questions I would have loved to kind of explore, but we always run out of time. At News 18, we always try and kind of kick up some sort of a discussion over different kinds of issues. AI is going to be around. It's not going anywhere. There is this constant talk that can it be controlled, can be, like there is this recent moratorium on AI development that ChatGPT 5 will not be released for the next 6 months at least. So that in the meantime, you can quickly put your checks and balances in place. But the world is a complex place. One country might, another won't. Another will accelerate, some will kind of do their private research. So this is now an unstoppable force. But thank you so much for participating in this kind of conclave that we had today, and we look forward to having you again here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the valuable insights. Please stay on the stage. I also had many questions, whether we'll have a job in the next 5 years.
No, no, but we can always discuss them over coffee later.
Yeah, yeah.
All the questions that are there.
I now request our managing editor Jyoti Kamal to felicitate our guests, Dr. Lalit Awasthi, Director, NIT Uttarakhand. Dr. Padma Kumar Nayar, Director, Thapar Institute of Engineering and Technology. Professor Rajiv Ahuja, Director, IIT Ropar. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Jyoti Kamal. Moving on to the next session, Breaking Barriers. Let us watch an audio-visual on